So I want to dig into these 12 arrests of pro-lifers. Pretty shocking stories. It started with Mark Hawk, and it's moved into this other incident with these 11 pro-lifers who were outside of an abortion clinic. What do you make of these cases?
Well, I think shocking is the right word to use. And I also think highly concerning. I mean, what we have here is several senior citizens. I think the oldest person who is arrested is 83 years old, currently in a federal prison because they were outside of an abortion clinic. I heard one report that they were singing worship songs within the abortion clinic. They went into the waiting room. And, we have details yet to come out, but it's definitely political gamesmanship at its finest, if not worse, which I'm hearing the words police state being thrown around in our circles. The fact that this is happening after Dobbs, the entire weight of the FBI bringing armed officials into people's homes because of their pro-life views, because of their religious views. It's blatant religious discrimination, I think, and viewpoint discrimination. Not to mention the fact that the FBI has yet to do a single thing about the over 80 pregnancy resource centers and churches that have been violently vandalized.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because we have a situation here in which we've had these 12 arrests. These are people who are outside of abortion clinics. And for those who don't know, and I think most people do, many pro-lifers, many Christians gather outside of clinics to pray, help women, connect women who are considering abortion with resources and services that can help them. And so all of that is commonplace. That has happened well before you mentioned Dobbs. The Dobbs case was the Supreme Court essentially overturning Roe v. Wade and returning abortion to the states. Now, you mentioned something else that I want to focus on here, which is the fact that we have seen 80, if not more, of these attacks, spray painting, destroying, firebombing pro-life clinics. And as far as we know, and correct me if I'm wrong, there have been no arrests in these cases. Is that correct?
That's correct. No arrests, no open investigations that we know of. We know that even there was video footage of one of the fire bombings, and that video footage, they could make an arrest and they're choosing not to. And I think it's pretty obvious now that the FBI is being used by the Biden administration to go after their political dissidents, people who are pro life, who disagree with the abortion agenda.
What do you think? And so you're an attorney. Again, you work in the pro-life movement and you're familiar with all of this. When you look at this from a legal perspective and also just a practical sort of perspective of what the aim is, because this law, the FACE Act, that's what people are being accused of violating here, these 12 people who have been arrested. We could talk a little bit about that law, but what do you think the intended goal is of these arrests? And I'm speaking more broadly. What are you hoping
Okay.
they want these arrests to do?
It's my perspective that they want to make an example out of these pro-lifers in order to intimidate those of us who are in the movement, let us know they're watching, they're there, and they're willing to use really whatever level of force necessary to shut down our activities to serve women and save lives, which is what we're dedicated to, right, as a movement. I also think that the federal government doesn't have a lot that they can do post Roe to push forward abortion measures. You have to do that through legislative enactment and laws. And so what you have is pro abortion Democrats, yelling at the White House, do something, do something. And there's not really a lot that the White House can do. And so this is one of the few areas of the law I think they have purview over, is to enforce the FACE Act. And, it looks like there were no actual arrests made by local DAs. There were not charges ever filed. We actually know several charges were dropped years ago. So I think this is the federal government trying to make an example out of pro-lifers, and it's something that we should not be intimidated by. We are going to serve women. We're going to be there for them in their most desperate hour of need and say, you have real choices and real options and solutions. We're here to care for you.
One of the things about this act, and we're calling it the FACE Act, which is the acronym for it, but it's the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. That's the official name of this. Now, one of the allegations or the claims is that these 11 in the second case were blocking an entrance to a clinic, to an abortion clinic. And because the law protects essentially those entrances, how do you respond to those who would say, well, they were blocking the entrance, maybe they do deserve some sort of ramification for that?
Right. So the FACE Act is meant to protect abortion providers and facilities, and by the way, other institutions. So healthcare facilities, churches are included from threats of violence, from basically terroristic activity. And so it's a strong protection from really 1994, where it just made it a federal crime to force or threaten to force or physically obstruct an entrance. And by all accounts, that none of that occurred in this situation. Now, we have yet to see, we need to see the evidence play out. These people are facing up to 11 years in prison.
Wow.
11 years in prison. And we know that over 24 armed, weaponized federal FBI agents showed up to make these arrests at these pro lifers' homes in front of their children. No doubt it was traumatizing. And so it's a serious thing that is occurring. And we need to be in prayer for these individuals who are senior citizens now in federal prison because they're pro life, essentially.
Well, and that is the part of this that I think is the most troubling for people. And, we talked about this at the start of the interview, but, Roe v. Wade goes away. There's a Supreme Court case, tons of chaos unfolding as a result of that. And then you suddenly have people being arrested for FACE Act, violations. The Mark Hawk case, which we've covered a lot at CBN News and Faithwire, that particular case, which was sort of what kicked this all off, that was over an incident that happened in October of 2021, right? Now, I don't know if you could speak to this at all, but it's interesting the timelines of this, right? If that happened in October and it seemed the local police didn't do anything, there was a police report. I reached out to the Philadelphia police and saw that brief police report that said that the person who was allegedly pushed to the ground, the employee, had a minor scrape. So I was looking at that, but do you think there's something, and I have a feeling I know what your answer will be, to the timing of this? And should it have been quicker? If this happened in October, why did the federal government take action against Mark Hawk, almost a year later?
Right. Well, we all know what's around the corner, and it's midterms. And it's clear that the Democrats, the DNC, is spending $240 million on abortion ads. And Planned Parenthood is spending $50 million on abortion ads. So they want this to be the rallying cry of the Democratic Party, which should be a reminder to us, frankly, as voters, how extreme the left is and how extreme they're willing to go. Let's not be confused here. They are calling these individuals who are arrested domestic terrorists, individuals who are outside an abortion clinic praying and talking to women. And, in the instance you're talking about, he had his 12-year-old son with him, and one of the abortion center workers was in his son's personal space yelling expletives at him. And so there's always two sides to every story, but we need to understand how seriously they're taking this and extreme they are as we head into midterms, where they want to make this their big issue. They want abortion on demand through the third trimester. They want abortion to be paid for by your taxpayer dollars. And so it's very dark and very serious. And it's really on us as voters and as citizens to say, we're not going to stand for this. We're going to show up. We're going to vote for life. We're going to vote to protect vulnerable people. And we do have rights as religious pro-life citizens in our country.
Where can people go to get more information on the work that you do?
Yes, well, you can go to hucoaction.org or humancoalitionaction.org. We serve women seeking abortion across this country who are pregnant and in need, and we try to give them real options, rescue them, help them get jobs, affordable childcare, food, really whatever she needs just to stabilize her circumstances in order to rescue her child. And we're going to be here no matter what our federal government says, no matter what they do, serving women with love and compassion.
Well, listen, I so appreciate your time coming on today. Would love to have you back sometime soon.
Anytime. Thanks so much, Billy.